I remember my siblings and I standing outside my mother and father's bedroom door, hearing my mother crying, begging my father to stop hurting her. I became very scared of my father, the man who was supposed to be my first love, the man who was supposed to show me how a woman should be treated.
It's your favorite older blended couple, and we've been married for
22 years. Cheers.
Cheers. And today, my husband is going to be reacting to a talk that I did at a women's conference in 2019 in Las Vegas. So without further ado, we'll get straight into the video. My husband is gonna come back with his reaction at the end of the video. So don't go anywhere. Stay tuned.
We'll be back.
Welcome the core, the chairlady for the Houston Hair Story, Sylvia Cooper.
Maya Angelou said, "There's no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you." My name is Sylvia, to those who can remember my name. I was born in Zimbabwe, Harare, in the late 60s. In the early 90s, I migrated to the United Kingdom, where I met my second husband of 22 years. In 2006, I moved to Houston, Texas with my family, and I had a master's degree in nursing administration. I work at MD Anderson Cancer Center, where we are making history every day. I have an adult son and a teenage daughter, and I'm excited to share with you that last week I became a grandmother for the first time. I'm a grandmother to a gorgeous little boy. His name is Ryan, but I call him Sweet. He is my sweet. And this is for Ryan. Grandma loves you, and I know one day you'll watch this. I am here today to talk about an issue that is so common, yet is not talked about enough. The issue sometimes gets publicity when a public figure is involved, and if and when they decide to talk about it. The issue is domestic violence. I started witnessing domestic violence at a tender age of 7 when my father married a second wife. I remember my siblings and I standing outside my mother and father's bedroom door, hearing my mother crying, begging my father to stop hurting her. I became very scared of my father, the man who was supposed to be my first love, the man who was supposed to show me how a woman should be treated. I would cry myself to sleep, praying that Father stops hurting Mother. Eventually, my mother left. I was 14 years old, and that's when I needed my mother most. My stepmother kept luxurious items such as perfumed soaps, perfumed lotions under lock and key. And I found myself using cooking oil, butter or margarine as lotion. I had a nickname at school. They called me Corn because I smelled like corn chips. When I was 17 years old, I met my high school sweetheart. But our relationship was short-lived when I met John, not his real name. I met John at my aunt's house. John was tall, dark, handsome. I was definitely attracted to him. I asked my aunt what she thought of John. And she thought John was a good fit for me. You see, I didn't feel loved at home, and John had closed the gap. John was charming. He was a journalist, and in my country, in the 80s, journalism was a prestigious profession, and I liked that about him too. A few weeks into our relationship, John lured me to his house, where he raped me. I was a virgin. But at that time, I didn't know that if you say no to sex and someone forces himself onto you, that's rape, right? But I didn't know that. I didn't tell anyone. 3 months went by, and I knew I had to tell somebody because I was pregnant. So I told my aunt, and my aunt confronted John. John said we should get married. Then my aunt had to break the news to my father, who was not amused. I remember my father saying, "There's something about John that I don't like, but I can't put a finger on it." It's funny how an abuser can smell another abuser from a mile away. I was not involved in our wedding plans. I didn't even pick my dress. John's sister picked it for me. I hated that dress. It was hideous. It had lace from waist up that felt like plastic. I wore oversized, long-sleeved gloves, fingerless gloves that looked like newborn's mittens. I remember my best friend had spent hours doing my hair, only to put a pillow box wedding hat on top of it. My son was born exactly 4 weeks after our wedding, and I was happy that my sister lived just down the street from us. She was my support system. When my son was 8 weeks old, John came home one day and told me that we were moving. I asked him why. He explained that we need more space because now we have a little baby, which made sense. But I was also sad that I was moving away from my support system. 3 months into our new place, one night, John was watching a game on the TV. The baby started crying. He told me to go outside with the baby. It was dark, I was scared, so I didn't go outside. He got mad at me and he punched a wall. I noticed that his knuckles were bleeding. Then on another occasion, he smashed a glass on the floor because he said I was taking too long dishing out his dinner. I became scared of John, just like I was scared of my father when I was 7 years old. One Friday afternoon, John came home from work and asked me a random question. He said, "If you were to meet your high school sweetheart, would you speak to him?" And I thought, that's a no-brainer. No, I will ignore him. He slapped me across the face and he called me a liar. My instinct was to fight back. You see, I grew up with 3 older brothers, so defending myself was just one of the things I had to do growing up. So I hit him back. and that infuriated John. He made sure that I will never ever hit him back ever again. He slapped me, he punched me, he kicked me, he gave me a black eye and a busted lip until I started begging for forgiveness. That's when he stopped. The following day, John apologized and he told me that it was never going to happen again, and I believed him. And I didn't tell anyone. You see, what had happened before this first beating? 2 weeks before, I had gone to the city with my 15-year-old sister, and we did bump into my high school sweetheart and stopped and said hi. What I didn't realize at that time is that John was sleeping with my 15-year-old sister and was using her to spy on me. That's why he called me liar and slapped me. I also didn't realize that this was just the beginning of weekly beatings, sometimes 3 times, twice a week. I'll share with you 2 brutal beatings that I remember vividly. It was end of year, and John told me that I had to come with him to his end of year Christmas party at work. I was reluctant to go because I knew that being with John in public places was just a recipe for disaster. But I had no choice, so I had to go. We sat at a table of 8 with 2 couples and 2 gentlemen. One of the gentlemen asked me how old our son was and who was babysitting our son, and I responded. John asked me to follow him outside. I knew something was wrong. He said, "You have just broken my rule, not to speak to men." Before I responded, he put a cigarette out on my cheek. He took off running to the parking lot. I followed him, but I couldn't catch up with him. He jumped into the car and left me there stranded. I asked one of the couples to give me a ride, and when I got home, John was waiting for me. He grabbed me by my hair, hit my head on the wall twice, and I passed out. When I woke up, I couldn't open my right eye because it was so swollen. I had nosebleed and a busted lip and blood all over my chest. He reminded me that if only I could follow instructions, do as I'm told, this wouldn't be happening. And I believed him. I thought, oh, that makes sense, it's my fault. Why did I speak to those guys? Why didn't I just ignore them? I apologized for speaking to the guy. And again, I didn't tell anybody. I thought John loved me, and I loved him. But on another occasion, his sister visited us. John had gave me some of his money to, for safekeeping, and he asked me for money to take his sister out. I asked him how much, and he said I shouldn't have asked him how much because it's his money, and also I belittled him in front of his sister. So he beat me up for that. That beating was the worst. Because when he was done with me, I looked like I just had a fight with Mike Tyson. 2 black eyes, busted lip. And what really hurt me was that his sister did not come to my rescue. She stepped out of the room when he started beating me up. When his sister left, a few days later, he apologized as usual and tried to tell me that it was my mistake. But this time something was different because I told my sister. That was the first time I ever told my family what was going on. So my sister said she was going to use this apologetic behavior he was having at that moment, and after he knew that my sister knew what was going on. So my sister asked John if I could look for a job. To my sister's and I's surprise, John agreed. My first job, I was a cashier in a women's clothing store. When I got my first paycheck, John gave me two options: to either hand over my check or to stop working. I chose to hand over my check. 3 months into my new job, I received a call from John, and he said he was going to pick me up. I told him that I worked through lunch and I was going to catch a bus home. So he said it was fine. But when I was about to leave, I remembered that I'd run out of cooking oil. And there was a grocery store just down the street from where I worked. So I thought it was a smart thing to get the cooking oil, get home and cook dinner for John. So I got home later than he expected, and he was waiting for me. As soon as I walked into the house, he said, and I quote, "If you think I've beaten you up, today I'm gonna beat the hell out of you. You're going to tell me where you were, who you were with, and what you did." Something magical happened. I found my voice. I spoke up. I spoke out. I said, "Please don't beat me up. Let me pick my stuff and leave." He was taken aback and said, "You want to leave?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Okay, pack your stuff." I shoved my clothes as fast as I could in the suitcase. I could not believe he was letting me go without giving me a good hiding. As I was walking to the gate, I heard, "Hey, come get him, he's probably not mine." I took my baby and he said, "Make sure you pack his stuff as well because you're not coming back." So I packed my son's clothes and I left. That was on the 29th of July in 1988, 31 years ago, and I've never looked back. So my message to you all here today, to women like me, domestic violence victims, survivors, and anyone who is watching this is, never forget that walking away from something unhealthy is brave, even if you stumble a little on your way out. Mental health. Thank you.
Cheers, we're back. Well, certainly, what a video. I started off, obviously, with when my wife was a little girl. You saw her dad abusing her mother, and at that age, what can you do? You can't do anything about it. It's not as if you're a big, strong person, you come in and say, "Dad, stop beating up mum." Right. That's terrible. I have to live with that. And of course, then you think that's the natural thing of life. Kids get taught by their parents how to act and how to receive things. And this is what she was taught, that this is what happens in a relationship. And then, lo and behold, she married somebody. And even her dad, who's an abuser, thought there was something wrong with him. As my wife said in the speech that she gave. And it's just crazy. It's all really, it's not very nice, definitely not very nice, and I didn't like it at all. It made me feel very sad and happy that I've got her. She's all mine now. Yep, 100%. And but I can't understand these people's attitudes. It's I mean, me and my wife joke about it. Thank God we can joke about it when I say, "Oh yeah, that's how you should treat a woman," and all this sort of thing, because she knows that I'm only laughing about that. It's not for real. But I don't know how to approach these things, how to think. I mean, I wouldn't want to think like that guy. Perhaps it would be best that I don't know how he's thinking, because I wouldn't like it. Wouldn't like to be able to think like that. Must be terrible.
Yeah, it was horrible.
It's And the thing is, as my wife said, that people think this is natural, so they don't get out of it. Those who don't get out of it end up dying because they get killed by their narcissistic abuser, or they get out. Like, you know, some people are lucky and they can get out, and some people aren't. They don't get out and they die.
So it's very sad. But anyway, I hope that, you know, this video will help women like me know that, you know, there's life after abuse.
Yeah, and not death, because you don't want to stay there and die.
Right.
And the thing is that this was years ago, but it's still happening today.
Oh, yeah.
There is
no
more
difference. Than 30 years ago.
Now they're probably bashing them over the head with iPhones and things and tablets, whereas before it was frying pans and God and fists. I mean, that's the only thing that's changed, is what they're being abused with.
Right.
But the abuse is still the same.
It's real. Abuse is real, and I've realized that it's not just in Africa; it's the whole world. It's everywhere.
That's right.
And it doesn't matter what ethnicity you are. You know, an abuser is an abuser, and you know there are different forms of abuse.
That's right.
But I went through all of them. You know, physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, spiritually, you know, everything. You know. Anyway, I hope I will help with this video. I help 1 or 2 people to know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
That's right.
We'll be back again with another video. Actually, we found a video of our wedding.
Oh yes.
We found a video of our wedding in Zimbabwe. It was with 2 weddings, one in England and another one in
it was a blessing actually in Zimbabwe. Yeah.
So we will be posting that video. So stay tuned. Bye.
Bye. We'll be back
with another video.
Cheers.